what the heck is the difference between a cash out refinance and a HELOC? What is a HELOC? And should you do either one of these? That is a question I get all the time. I'm getting it a lot right now. And why am I getting this question so much? Well, I'll tell you. It's because people have all-time high equity in their homes. If you own a home right now, you have probably more equity in your home than most people have had in history for a really long time. The average American right now, and again, this is just average, has approximately 30% equity in their home or more. That is what we're seeing. So right now, it's a great time to access the equity in your home if you're doing it for the right reasons, okay? And what's the best way to do it? Should you do it as a cash out refinance or should you do it as a HELOC? Well, let's talk about that. It really depends. That's not a one size fits all answer, and I'll tell you why. First of all, what is a HELOC? Let's talk about a HELOC. A HELOC is a home equity line of credit. So it's an acronym, HELOC, home equity line of credit, and it's just what it sounds like. It's a line of credit that gets put on your home. So if you have a first mortgage already, and I'm going to use really simple numbers so that, simple math to make it easy for this example. Let's say your house is worth $500,000. And typically you can go up to about 80%. You can go a little higher on HELOCs, but just to keep the example simple, let's say 80% cash out refinance, okay? So if you had a $500,000 value home and you could go to 80%, you could go to $400,000 in total mortgages, in total liens. Okay, that leaves $100,000 in equity would stay in the home. So if you could go up to $400,000 in total loans, and let's just say hypothetically you owed $300,000 on your first mortgage, you would have $100,000 available to draw in the form of either a cash out refi or a HELOC. If you were to do a HELOC, you would get a $100,000 HELOC. It would be in second position behind your $300,000 first. So $300,000 first, $100,000 HELOC. You owe $400,000 total on your $500,000 home in that scenario. Now, what's unique about a HELOC is think of it like a glorified credit card attached to your home, okay? So just like a credit card, it has a limit and it has a balance, right? So if you had a $100,000 HELOC limit, but you never drew on it, you would not make payments on the balance of that HELOC. You're not going to make a payment based on $100,000 availability. You're going to make a payment based on what you draw, just like a credit card. So if you had a $100,000 HELOC, and let's say you took that HELOC out to do home improvements, and you went ahead and you drew $20,000 on that HELOC to do some work in the home, you would only make payments based on that $20,000 balance. And based on the structure of the HELOC, and we'll talk about that in a minute. So let's say you have this $100,000 HELOC and you're going to do home improvements and you take out $20,000 to put in, let's just say floors and whatever. Let's just say floors. Really nice floors. So you take out the $20,000, you're only going to make your payments on that balance, okay? And usually they're set up with like prime plus something, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But you're not paying on the 100, you're only paying on what you drew. Then let's just say you're going to put in kitchen cabinets, and you have to put down a deposit to order the cabinets, and you draw out another $30,000 to get your cabinet order in, and whatever else you're doing in your kitchen. So now you owe $50,000. Payments are only going to be based on the $50,000. Now, if you were to get a big bonus check and pay, $20,000 back down on that HELOC, and now you only owe $30,000, you're only making payments on $30,000. So the nice thing about a HELOC is you only pay for what you use. That's great. What I don't like about HELOC, and the other thing is you can draw on it and pay it down and draw on it and pay it down over and over and over again for as long as the draw period is open. Usually it's a 10-year draw period, and then usually at the end of 10 years, most HELOCs have like a 20-year repayment period. So you draw for 10 years and then you pay for the next 20. So you can draw on it over and over and over. That's kind of cool, right? You can also make an interest-only payment on most HELOCs. So that's a little bit lower payment if you're just paying the interest. Some people like that. What is the negative to a HELOC is it's usually prime plus something, some sort of a margin added. And prime is prime rate, and prime rate is adjustable. So if you were to have that HELOC for the next 10 years, that payment is going to adjust based on prime plus whatever that HELOC is set up at, prime plus 3/4, prime plus 1, prime plus 1.5, whatever it is. So the plus stays the same, but that prime is adjustable. I don't like that, especially if somebody is borrowing and they are on some sort of more of a fixed income, like a salary. They don't get commission, they don't get bonus. That's not always, they're not self-employed where they have great months, where they could put a bunch of money toward that HELOC. The other thing is they're typically simple interest. And for people who are tempted by that open line of credit, I see it a lot. They draw on it. Now it's maxed out. And it's just like a big fat credit card attached to your home, and it's not getting paid off. And you just keep making that interest-only payment, and it sits there for a really, really, really long time and becomes kind of a thorn in your side. So that's what I don't love about HELOCs. They're not amortized where you're, it's getting paid down every month based on an amortized payment. So that's a HELOC. Cash out refinance. Should you do one? Well, I personally think you should do it in 3 scenarios, okay? There's 3 reasons where cash out refinance could make a lot of sense. People think debt is bad and you're going to pay out, you're going to have a bigger mortgage and you're leveraging, you're using up your home's equity, and that's true. But, some of the richest people in the world have used their equity in their home and leveraged it to make money. And we're in a very unique time right now where rates on mortgages are very, very low. But when you look at borrowing at that amount, if you're paying off high interest credit cards, if you're paying off high debt, if you're using it to not get a bunch of student loans and you're going to pay for school, that could make sense. You're going to amortize at a very low interest rate with a lower payment amortized over time. And that is what you're doing in lieu of taking on this high interest debt. And although it's going to be financed over a longer period of time, we always have that conversation of how long will you be in the home? Are you going to be in the home 30 years? Probably not. You're going to be in the home 5 years? Okay, well then let's use that equity because homes are appreciating and you're borrowing at a low interest rate and your home will appreciate and far outweigh that, that loan that you've just taken out and still give you equity in the future. So that would be one reason that a cash out refinance could make sense. Another reason is if you're going to leverage that money to buy something else like another property. Borrowing at all-time low interest rates and then buying a home that's going to appreciate in right now the double digits. That's how you also beat inflation, right? So that would be another reason that it would make sense to leverage that equity in your home if you're going to invest it into something that's going to appreciate at a higher rate of return than what you borrowed at. And the third time that it makes sense to do a cash out refinance is if you're going to invest in some other form of investment that's going to give you a higher return than the mortgage interest rate. So if you're borrowing in the high 3s, low 4s, and you can get a return in the 6s, 7s, 8s, 10s, whatever it is, that would make sense. I would caution you here. I would really urge you to be careful because that investment, you want to make sure you vet it. It's a solid investment. Do your research. Get lots of recommendations. Not crazy things you see online and Facebook ads, etc. You want to make sure you're doing something that's safe and has a good rate of return, but nothing insane that doesn't seem the saying, if it's sounds too good to be true, it probably is. Well, that is definitely the case with investing. So just be careful there. I hate to see people use up their equity and then invest in something that is not legitimate, and now you've lost your money. So word of warning there, not saying you should do that, but if you have a great financial planner, somebody you trust, and there's some good investments out there, which there are, where you could get a return higher than that interest rate, that could make a lot of sense for you. That's leveraging your equity in your home to build more money, more wealth, right? So those are the differences between a cash out refinance, just a regular amortized mortgage where we, in that same scenario, we do a $400,000 loan. We pay off your $300,000 first. The $100,000 goes to you to be used for home improvements, debt consolidation, or some other form of investment. They both may make sense. They may not make sense. I really like to talk with you, figure out your goals, figure out your plan, and then come up with a great strategy. And most of the time, we get to a place that you feel really comfortable and you can see that that's going to help you. One last thing, if you are doing debt consolidation and you're going to see a big savings per month by doing this, by paying off credit cards, debts, installment loans, if you took that cash savings every month and did one of two things with it, invested it, or, in your 401k or some sort of a good yield, or put it back into your mortgage as a principal reduction, that's an even better way to use that cash and really leverage the equity in your home. So give me a call. We love to come up with these strategies and help you come up with a plan. A lot of people feel like, oh, I have a great interest rate on my first. I don't want to touch it. Let's just do a HELOC. That's not always the best idea, because that HELOC interest rate could be higher, and then your blended rate's higher than you think. It's adjustable. We ask questions like, well, how much do you owe on your first versus that second? All these things need to be looked at. So give us a call so we can help you strategize, put together a plan that makes sense, and get you into a beautiful financial future. Michelle Oddo, the Oddo Group, Luminate Home Loans. Give us a call.